Mr. Brooks, I need you to step away from your wife. Marcus blinked, confused, but hiding it behind a mask of concern. Detective, I'm her husband. And you will be questioned as such, Ramirez said coolly. Marcus turned to me, forcing a tear down his cheek. Elena, they're confused. Something's wrong. Just tell them I'd never. But he didn't get to finish. The door opened again. Attorney Daniel Archer walked in, carrying the thick, sealed manila envelope I had signed weeks earlier. My will. My evidence. My voice. He didn't look at Marcus. He walked straight to Ramirez. Detective, he said. This is the complete file. Time-stamped. Notarized. Original signatures. Marcus's face drained of color. Wait, what is that? He demanded. Marcus lunged forward. This is ridiculous. Elena, tell them you didn't. He froze. Because for the first time, I finally looked at him. Let me tell you how all of this started. If you're still here with me, tell me where you're listening from. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled. Now back to the story. I knew the moment the warmth in my throat turned to fire that Marcus had finally decided tonight was the night. The teacup slipped from my fingers and shattered across the kitchen tiles of our Houston home, but the sound felt far away, like it was happening in someone else's house, someone else's life. My vision blurred at the edges. My tongue felt thick. And my heartbeat, usually steady even when Marcus yelled, turned into a frantic hammer trying to break out of my chest. I wasn't breathing. I couldn't breathe. Across the counter, Marcus didn't rush toward me. He didn't shout my name. He didn't even flinch. He just stood there, one hand on the handle of the refrigerator, watching me with a stillness that chilled my bones more than the poison spreading through my body. Elena, he said softly, almost kindly, don't make this harder than it needs to be. My knees hit the floor. The cold tiles burned against my skin, and suddenly the kitchen felt foreign, hostile, like I was lying on the floor of a stranger's house. My fingertips shook uncontrollably as I tried to steady myself, but my muscles weren't listening. Everything inside me was shutting down one piece at a time. Marcus finally stepped closer. Not to help. Not to save me. But to check, to examine my collapse the way a mechanic checks an engine. He lowered himself beside me and pressed his fingers to my neck. Good, he whispered. It's working faster this time. This time. That phrase sliced through the fog in my mind. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a moment of rage. He had been testing doses. Watching symptoms. Adjusting. Preparing. He thought I didn't notice the dizziness in Phoenix. The trembling hands in Chicago. The strange metallic taste I felt last week in San Diego. He thought I was the same quiet, obedient wife who let him control every breath of my life. But he didn't know that the very first night I felt something wrong, just a slight blur in my vision. I had gone straight to my lawyer and rewritten my will. He didn't know I had documented everything. He didn't know the investigation would start the second a doctor confirmed I was poisoned. He didn't know the trap he was walking into. As the world darkened, my last thought wasn't fear. It was victory. Go ahead, Marcus. Finish what you started. My will is already waiting for you. People think the worst part of abuse is the moment the fist hits you. They're wrong. The worst part is the silence afterward, the part where you stare at yourself in the bathroom mirror and try to recognize the person looking back. For 12 years in our Houston home, that silence was my daily companion. I wasn't always weak. I wasn't always scared. Before I met Marcus, I was the top student in my analytics program, the woman professors said would change the field. But becoming his wife meant becoming invisible. He chipped away at me slowly, methodically, until I learned to breathe quietly, walk softly, and apologize for existing. He controlled everything, my bank card, my phone, my routine, even my friends. Especially my friends. If I laughed too loudly on a call, he would unplug the Wi-Fi. If I took too long returning from the grocery store, he would demand proof of where I'd been. And if I ever hinted at wanting more, a job, a project, a dream, he made sure to crush it before it sprouted. But I didn't tell people what he did behind closed doors. People don't believe a woman who appears calm and well put together. And Marcus looked like a respectable man, polished, charming, always ready with a smile for neighbors. Only Priya, my next-door neighbor, ever looked at me long enough to see the truth. Elena, You flinch every time your phone buzzes, she once whispered. That isn't normal. I told her I was fine, but we both knew I wasn't. The truth is, leaving him was never simple. People think abuse looks like a door you can just walk out of, but for women like me, it feels more like a cage you can't see until it's too late. Marcus controlled everything, the money, the house, my connections, even my confidence. And after years of being told I was nothing without him, part of me started to believe it. I wasn't staying because I loved him. I was staying because I was afraid no one would believe me, and because I didn't yet remember who I was before him. Abusers don't just break your bones. They break your sense of escape. Still, even in captivity, the mind doesn't stop dreaming. I worked quietly as a healthcare data analyst from home, building spreadsheets the way some women build escape plans. And because Marcus thought analytics was nerdy nonsense, he never questioned it. Late at night when he snored beside me, I logged into private tutoring sessions with students from Chicago, Phoenix, and San Diego. Small jobs, small money, but expressions of the intelligence he tried so hard to bury. One of those sessions changed my life. A young CEO named Jordan Hale from San Diego needed help diagnosing a flaw in a predictive medical AI system his company was building. I solved it in 20 minutes. He blinked at the screen, speechless. Elena, you do realize this insight is worth millions, right? I shook my head. No. It's just math. It's not just math, he said. It's vision. 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to San Diego with a suitcase of thrift store clothes and hands that trembled the whole flight. I told Marcus it was a women's health conference. He barely looked up when he grunted permission. That trip transformed everything. Jordan sat me in a glass conference room overlooking the Pacific Ocean. My presentation lasted 4 hours. Their board approved my consultation deal on the spot, a one-time payout so large I stared at the zeros until they stopped looking real. $1.4 million. Grass to grace. Prisoner to asset. Nobody to somebody. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. You see, women like me learn very early that good news is dangerous news if the wrong man finds out. So before I returned to Houston, I visited an attorney, Daniel Archer, and opened a private trust Marcus could never touch. Daniel watched me sign the papers with careful eyes. Mrs. Brooks, if you ever need protection, call me. Your voice sounds like someone who's been quiet too long. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But he was right. When I came back home, Marcus noticed the change immediately. Not the money, the confidence. The posture. The tiny spark in my eyes. He hated it. He started hovering more, checking my messages, questioning every receipt. He stared at me at night as if trying to solve a puzzle he didn't like. Then the first symptom appeared. During a business trip to Phoenix, after a dinner Marcus insisted we share, my vision blurred and the room tilted. The hotel doctor said it was dehydration. But the metallic taste in my mouth, it wasn't dehydration. It was warning. That night, shaking, I booked my own lab tests. 2 days later, the results arrived. Trace toxins. Microdoses. Administered over time. And the minute I saw the report, something inside me, something small and buried, came alive again. I printed the results, returned to Daniel Archer's office, and revised my will. Not to give anything away, but to expose everything. Because if Marcus wanted me gone, he needed to understand something. I wasn't leaving quietly. I wasn't dying cheaply. And whatever he started, I would finish. People think betrayal comes like lightning, sudden, shocking, impossible to miss. They don't realize the real danger comes quietly, drip by drip, disguised as normal life. After Phoenix, after that first terrifying symptom, I watched Marcus differently. Not as my husband. Not even as my abuser. I watched him the way prey watches a predator from the grass, still, silent, calculating. And the more I observed, the more I saw. Marcus had changed. Not in big ways, but in the small cracks that reveal everything. He was too calm. Too patient. He studied me the way a farmer studies a crop near harvest, checking timing, readiness, conditions. One night, I caught him staring at me while I pretended to sleep. Not lovingly. Not sadly. But clinically. As if he were measuring how close I was to the end. The next morning, his tone shifted. He became gentle, soft-voiced, helpful, the kind of man he only played for outsiders. Elena, let me make your tea. Elena, don't tire yourself, let me handle dinner. Elena, you look pale, just sit, I'll take care of it. To anyone else, it would have looked like affection. To me, it felt like someone digging my grave and planting flowers over it. I tried to hide my fear, but Marcus could smell weakness the way wolves smell blood. The more he sensed I was slipping, the bolder he became. He started taking my phone at night, checking my location history, asking random questions to catch me off guard. Where did you go Tuesday? Who did you meet in San Diego? Why did you need a lawyer? That last one nearly stopped my heart. I forced a smile. You know, estate planning for the conference. His eyes flicked with suspicion, but he didn't push. That was even worse. That meant he already believed whatever story he was telling himself. A week later, the mask fell completely. I found the new life insurance policy sitting half open on his desk. $5 million. Signed by him. Stamped. Processed. Filed under a folder titled, Future Planning. I didn't remember signing anything. Because I hadn't. My own husband forged my signature so he could profit from my death. I stood there staring at the page until my hands began to shake. That's when I noticed something else, a spreadsheet on his laptop. A payout timeline. 6 months of projected expenses. Projected investments. Projected income. Projected widowhood. It was so detailed it made me nauseous. But it got worse. There was another tab called After E. Inside, apartment listings for single men, a luxury vacations, expensive watches, a Cartier bracelet for her, a mortgage calculator for a condo in Chicago, where his mistress lived. My throat closed. My stomach sank. And for the first time in years, tears fell without permission. He wasn't planning to leave me. He wasn't planning to negotiate. He wasn't planning a divorce. He was planning a murder. That night, while I lay in bed pretending to sleep, Marcus stepped outside for a phone call. His voice drifted through the open window, low, excited, confident. Yes, she's getting weaker. The doctor said the symptoms make sense. No, she won't make it to January. It'll look natural. A pause. A chuckle. I'll send the money once the policy pays out. Yeah man, finally a clean break. My blood turned cold. My breath grew shallow. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But fear pinned me like a nail. When he came back inside, he kissed my forehead. You okay, sweetheart? You look tired. I almost vomited. The next betrayal came directly from his hands. He brought me a glass of water and 2 pills, saying, You forgot your vitamins. I stared at the pills. Different shape. Different color. Not the brand I knew. I lifted them slowly. These aren't mine. He shrugged. Pharmacy switched manufacturers. Just take them. His tone left no room for refusal. I swallowed them, but as soon as he turned away, I forced myself to throw up silently into the bathroom sink. The taste burned like chemicals. For the first time, I truly understood. Marcus wasn't guessing. Marcus wasn't trying. Marcus was executing a plan. His plan. A plan he believed I was too stupid, too scared, too obedient to see. He was wrong. Priya was the one who delivered the final confirmation. She knocked on my door one afternoon, her face pale, eyes wide. Elena. I'm sorry, but I saw Marcus behind the complex meeting with a man I recognize. He's been in the news. Insurance scammer. People have died around him. Her voice trembled. Mine didn't. Because by then, I wasn't shocked anymore. I was preparing. The final betrayal came wrapped in a digital coffin. While Marcus showered, his tablet lit up. A notification preview showed. I can't wait for our life together. When is she gone? My fingers shook as I opened the thread. Hundreds of messages. Photos. Plans. A vacation booked for February, 2 months after he expected me dead. Voice notes where he said, Don't worry, babe. She's too dumb to see anything. That was the moment something hardened inside me. Not fear. Not sadness. Not shock. Resolve. If Marcus wanted a dead wife, fine. He would get one. Just not the way he planned. When you realize someone you love is planning your death, something inside you dies first. But something else is born at the same time. In my case, fear burned away and revealed something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. The kind that comes when you stop hoping the monster will change and start preparing to destroy him. After I found the messages between Marcus and his mistress, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I didn't even shake. I walked into the bathroom, closed the door softly, and stared at myself in the mirror. For the first time in a decade, I didn't see the timid, controlled, trembling woman Marcus had shaped. I saw the woman I used to be, the one professors said was too smart for her own good. The one Marcus married because he didn't understand yet that intelligence can survive underground. I held onto the sink and whispered to my reflection, "He's killing you slowly. So you have to save yourself quickly." And I started planning. Step 1, documentation. Every pill bottle. Every photograph of bruises. Every life insurance document he forged. Every screenshot of emails with the mistress. Every voice note where he joked about waiting for it to be over. I recorded everything with timestamps, stored copies in cloud drives under random names, placed hard copies in a sealed folder, and hid USB backups where he'd never look, inside old spice jars in the kitchen he never touched. Then I encrypted everything and sent the entire bundle to my lawyer, Daniel Archer, with a simple subject line: "Open only if I die." But I wasn't planning to die. I was planning to make sure that if I did, Marcus would not live free a single day afterward. Step 2, medical proof. I scheduled a private appointment in Phoenix, where Marcus wouldn't think to check. The toxicology screen confirmed what I already knew. "Mrs. Brooks," the doctor said, lowering his voice, "these compounds don't appear naturally. They suggest ongoing exposure." In other words, I said quietly, "Someone is poisoning me." He didn't respond. He didn't need to. I took the printed report in my shaking hands, and instead of crying, I felt a new kind of steadiness settle over me. Proof. Cold. Clinical. Undeniable. The piece he didn't know I had. Step 3, rewrite the will. I went straight to Daniel's office. He listened without interrupting, though I could see the tension in his jaw building with every detail. "Elena, if you're right, your life is in immediate danger." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm here." We drew up the most aggressive contingency triggers he had ever seen. Black small square if I am hospitalized for poisoning, police notified immediately. Black small square if I die under any unclear circumstances, automatic autopsy and release of evidence. Black small square if Marcus files any insurance claim, full criminal package sent to homicide investigators. Black small square Marcus receives nothing. Absolutely nothing. Daniel looked at me over his glasses. "You understand this will ruin him?" I swallowed. "He's trying to kill me, Daniel. I'm just making sure he doesn't win." We notarized it the same day. I walked out feeling lighter, not safe but armed. Step 4, deception. I let Marcus think I was getting worse. I didn't fight when he insisted on pouring my drinks. I didn't complain when dizziness hit me. I didn't argue when he said I looked awful, weak, or ready to rest. I gave him exactly the performance he wanted. Because predators relax when they believe the prey has stopped running. And when Marcus relaxed, he slipped. He left doors unlocked. He left papers lying around. He let his temper flare too quickly, too proudly. One night he snapped at me, "You know, Elena, sometimes it's better to let things end naturally." Naturally. The word tasted like poison. But I just nodded and whispered, "Maybe you're right." His eyes softened, satisfied. That's when I knew he was close. Very close. Step 5, prepare for the moment. I organized all evidence in chronological order inside a sealed manila envelope at Daniel's office. I made sure the hospital where my test results were filed had my emergency contacts updated, including investigators who specialize in suspicious deaths. And I rehearsed what would happen when the final attempt came. If I collapsed, the will would trigger. The police would come. Marcus would be locked down legally before he even packed a bag. If I survived, I would destroy him myself. If I didn't, my evidence would do it for me. Either way, Marcus wouldn't walk away from this. The last night before everything exploded, I sat alone in the dark living room, listening to the refrigerator hum and the distant traffic on the Houston freeway. Marcus was out. Probably with her. Probably celebrating early. I wrapped my arms around myself, not for comfort, but to hold in the fire building inside me. I'm not dying, I whispered into the empty room. I'm transforming. For years, Marcus thought he was shaping me into something small, breakable, dependent. He never realized he was sharpening me instead. The night he finally slipped the poison into my tea, I didn't panic. I had already prepared my ending. And his. When I opened my eyes, the world wasn't dark anymore. I was in a hospital. Alive. Barely. My throat felt raw, as if someone had scraped the inside with sandpaper. My head throbbed. My limbs felt heavy, floating somewhere outside my body. But I could hear everything. I could think. And I remembered. Marcus. The tea. The floor. His whisper, good. It's working faster this time. Suddenly, a shadow moved at the edge of my vision. Not Marcus. A different man, broad shoulders, dark hair streaked with gray, calm eyes that missed nothing. He leaned forward slowly. Mrs. Brooks, he said. Can you hear me? I swallowed painfully. Yes. He nodded once. I'm Detective Alejandro Ramirez, Homicide Division. I flew in from Chicago as soon as your lawyer sent the packet. My lawyer. That meant. The will, I rasped. It triggered automatically, Ramirez said. Your contingencies were airtight. Smart work. He studied me. You've been poisoned over several weeks. The toxicology report just came back. Your bloodstream contained compounds consistent with foul play. I closed my eyes in relief and terror at the same time. Where is my husband? I whispered. Before Ramirez could answer, the door burst open. Marcus rushed in, overacting, like a devastated spouse running into a tragedy he couldn't process. Elena, he cried, choking on fake tears. Elena, my God baby, I thought I lost you. He grabbed my hand, pressing it dramatically to his chest. I felt the tremor in his fingers, not from worry, but from panic. Real panic. Something wasn't going according to his plan. Ramirez straightened. Mr. Brooks, I need you to step away from your wife. Marcus blinked, confused but hiding it behind a mask of concern. Detective, I'm her husband. And you will be questioned as such, Ramirez said coolly. Marcus turned to me, forcing a tear down his cheek. Elena, they're confused. Something's wrong. Just tell them I'd never. But he didn't get to finish. The door opened again. Attorney Daniel Archer walked in carrying the thick, sealed manila envelope I had signed weeks ago. My will. My evidence. My voice. He didn't look at Marcus. He walked straight to Ramirez. Detective, he said. This is the complete file. Time-stamped. Notarized. Original signatures. Marcus's face drained of color. Wait, what is that? He demanded. Ramirez opened the envelope carefully, slipping out the documents. Photos. Screenshots. Lab reports. Emails between Marcus and his mistress. The forged insurance paperwork. It was all there. Everything. Marcus lunged forward. This is ridiculous. Elena, tell them you didn't. He froze. Because I finally looked at him. Not with fear. Not with confusion. Not with weakness. With clarity. Pure, cold clarity. If you love stories of betrayal, hidden truths, and justice that strikes when no one expects it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. New stories drop every day, each one darker, sharper, and more unforgettable than the last. Now back to the story. Marcus, I said softly, voice raspy but strong, I didn't make that file in the hospital. I made it when you first tried to kill me. Sweat broke across his forehead. That's impossible, he whispered. Ramirez shook his head. It's very possible. And very incriminating. He read aloud from the page. Policy beneficiary, Marcus Brooks. Forged signatures identified. Correspondence with external accomplice, motive for profit. Poison compound detected in victim's blood. Marcus's jaw clenched. The mask finally cracked. He turned to me, voice low and vicious. You planned this. I held his gaze. You started planning long before I did. Something snapped inside him. He lunged forward, but Ramirez was faster. The detective slammed him against the wall, twisting his arms behind him. You're under arrest, Ramirez said. Attempted murder. Fraud. Conspiracy. And depending on your wife's recovery, possibly murder one if she doesn't make it. Marcus thrashed like a wild animal. This is her fault. She was supposed to die. His words cut off as Ramirez tightened the cuffs. Daniel stepped closer to me, laying a hand on the bedrail. Elena, it worked. Everything you prepared, it worked. I exhaled slowly. My chest ached. My throat burned. But I wasn't afraid. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. 2 days later, I sat upright for the first time, sipping water while Ramirez updated me. We searched your home, he said. We found the pills. The notes. The timeline he kept. There's more. He slid a folder to me. Inside were printed emails, things I hadn't seen before. Marcus had discussed doses with the fixer Priya had spotted. He had researched how long symptoms would last before a body stopped fighting. He had even calculated how quickly he could cash out the insurance policy. The precision was chilling. Ramirez continued, we also uncovered communication between your husband and another woman. He promised her marriage, as soon as you were out of the picture. I nodded. I know. But what you didn't know, Ramirez said, is that she was helping him funnel assets. She's now cooperating with investigators. Of course she was. People loyal in love are rarely loyal in prison. Is Marcus fighting the charges? I asked. For now, Ramirez replied. But he won't win. Your documentation, the will, the toxicology, it's a fortress. A fortress I built while he underestimated me. The irony tasted sweeter than anything I'd felt in years. The final blow came a week later. Marcus requested to speak to me. I agreed. They wheeled me into a private room where he stood behind reinforced glass, handcuffed, in an orange jumpsuit. But his eyes weren't angry anymore. They were full of something worse. Fear. He leaned toward the glass. Elena, I made a mistake. I lost control. We can fix this. Withdraw the complaint. Tear up the will. Come home. Please. It was almost pathetic. Almost. I looked at him, the man who beat me, belittled me, killed me slowly, and thought he would profit from my death. Marcus, I said, voice steady, the only thing I'm withdrawing is from you. Permanently. His face twisted, rage returning, animalistic and broken. You'll regret this, he hissed. You think you've won? You think you're better than me? You're nothing without. I stood. Without you, I interrupted, I finally get to live. Ramirez signaled. The guard ended the visit. Marcus shouted until they dragged him away. But I didn't hear the words. I only heard one thing. My heartbeat. Steady. Strong. Alive. Because the man who tried to kill me was now fighting to save himself. And losing. Recovery is a strange thing. People assume it feels like triumph, like the final scene of a movie where the hero stands tall, victorious. But recovery, real recovery, feels slow. Quiet. Uneven. For weeks after Marcus's arrest, I woke up with the same thought every morning. I survived a man who wanted me dead. It didn't feel heroic. It felt unreal. Detective Ramirez visited often, updating me as the case grew bigger than anyone expected. The deeper investigators dug, the more layers of Marcus's life were uncovered. Hidden debts, offshore accounts, falsified documents, affairs spanning years, and messages showing he had planned my death with chilling patience. Your will saved your life, Ramirez told me one afternoon. Most people don't think that far ahead. But the truth is, I didn't make that will because I was brave. I made it because I was terrified. Terrified enough to stop hoping. Terrified enough to stop forgiving. Terrified enough to finally protect myself. When the day came for me to be discharged from the hospital, I packed my small duffel bag and paused at the doorway. I looked back once, Not at the machines or the white walls, but at the version of myself who had been carried in here half dead. She was gone. Quietly. Finally. 2 months later, I moved to San Diego, the city that changed everything for me. Jordan Hale welcomed me into his company like an equal, not a shadow. I signed a long-term contract as a strategic consultant, something I never thought I'd achieve while trapped under Marcus's thumb. The first night in my new apartment, I stood on the balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The waves rolled in steady and endless, and for the first time in years, I felt like the world wasn't shrinking around me. It was expanding. Marcus's trial lasted 6 weeks. I wasn't required to attend, but I chose to. Not out of vengeance, but closure. When the prosecutor listed each charge, attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, forgery, insurance manipulation, I felt no satisfaction. Only truth. When the jury foreman said guilty, Marcus finally looked at me. Not with rage. Not with arrogance. With recognition. He finally saw the part of me he spent years trying to kill, the part that thinks. The part that plans. The part that survives. He was sentenced to 27 years. I walked out of the courthouse with the sun on my face and my attorney beside me, not as a victim but as a woman reclaiming her life one breath at a time. But survival means more than breathing. So I built something of my own, a foundation for women escaping abusive homes in Houston, Chicago, Phoenix, and San Diego. I named it the Alara Project, after a star known for breaking free of its orbit. We offer housing, legal aid, career training, safety, real safety, for people whose fear has been ignored for too long. Every time a woman walks into one of our offices trembling and walks out standing taller, I see myself. Every time someone whispers, "I didn't think anyone would believe me," I remember that silence can be its own kind of death. I tell them the truth. You don't need to be brave all at once. Just be brave enough to take the first step. The rest we'll do together. People still ask me how I lived with a man planning my death. How I stayed so long. How I didn't see it sooner. But I don't waste time on blame. Not anymore. Because the truth is simple. Marcus didn't fail to kill me because I was strong. He failed because he underestimated the strength I had left. If stories of betrayal and hidden truths keep you thinking long after they end, click the story showing on your screen now.